The emergency medical bay aboard the Galactic Research Station Kepler 442 buzzed with desperate activity. Dr. Zara Chen lay motionless on the bioscanner table, her olive skin now bearing a sickly gray pallor. The twin puncture marks on her left ankle had turned an ominous black, with dark veins spreading up her leg like twisted roots. "Vitals are dropping fast," announced Nurse Kethvar, his blue-scaled hands dancing over the holographic displays. The Saurian's usually steady voice carried an edge of panic. "Neural activity is at 30% and falling. Whatever that creature injected into her, it's shutting down her entire nervous system." Dr. Yilmoth, the station's chief medical officer, examined the readings with growing alarm. The elderly Centaurian had treated countless species across 3 decades, but he'd never seen anything quite like this. "The toxin is unlike anything in our databases. It's attacking her brainstem directly while simultaneously paralyzing her respiratory muscles." 3 hours earlier, Dr. Chun had been leading the xenobiology survey team on the planet's surface. Kepler 442b was supposed to be a routine cataloging mission, just another garden world rich with plant life, but lacking complex fauna. The preliminary scans had shown nothing larger than insects. Nobody expected the camouflaged serpent that struck from beneath the fallen leaves. "I'm telling you, she's dying," Dr. Yilmoth said to Commander Jexhai, the station's Vortan leader. His 6 arms gestured helplessly at the medical displays. "Without knowing the exact composition of the venom, I cannot synthesize an antidote. Her human physiology is fighting, but it's a losing battle." Commander Jexhai's mandibles clicked nervously. Humans were still relatively new to the Galactic Medical Database. Their species had only joined the Confederation 20 years ago, and their biological data was frustratingly incomplete compared to races that had been part of the Alliance for centuries. "What about a broad-spectrum neural stimulant?" suggested Dr. Feldoran, a crystalline being whose species communicated through harmonic resonances. "If we can keep her brain active while her body processes the toxin naturally?" "Too dangerous," Yilmoth replied, his trunk-like appendage waving dismissively. "Human neural pathways are too sensitive. A stimulant strong enough to counteract the venom would likely cause permanent brain damage or death." As if summoned by their conversation, the bioscanner began emitting a low, mournful tone. Zara's heart rate had dropped to dangerous levels, and her breathing had become so shallow it was barely registering on the sensors. "She has perhaps 20 minutes, Yilmoth announced grimly. "I've never lost a patient to an unknown toxin, but human biology remains largely mysterious to us. If this were a Centaurian or even a Saurian, I might attempt emergency neural bypass surgery. But with humans, what?" The voice came from the medical bay entrance. Everyone turned to see Lieutenant Marcus Webb, Dr. Chin's research partner, and the only other human aboard the station. His dark eyes were fierce with determination, and his jaw was set in a way that made the aliens unconsciously step back. "Lieutenant Webb," Commander Jexhai said carefully, "Dr. Yilmoth has done everything medically possible. I'm afraid Dr. Chen's condition is beyond our current understanding of human physiology." Marcus moved to Zara's side, taking in her deteriorating condition. His hands clenched into fists as he studied the medical readouts he couldn't fully understand. "You're telling me that with all this advanced technology, all these brilliant minds, you're just going to let her die?" "We are not letting her die," Dr. Yilmoth said with wounded pride. "We simply lack the biological knowledge to create an effective treatment. Human medical records are incomplete, and your species' rapid adaptation to toxins is poorly documented." Marcus stared at Zara's pale face, memories flooding back of their partnership, their late-night discussions about xenobiology, and the quiet moments when he'd realized his feelings for her went beyond professional admiration. She'd been fearless on every survey mission, always the first to investigate unknown phenomena. Now she was dying because of that same courage. "There has to be something," he muttered, more to himself than to the assembled medical team. "Humans don't just give up. We adapt. We survive. We find a way when there shouldn't be one." The bioscanner's warning tones grew more urgent. Zara's breathing had become so faint that the sensors could barely detect it. Her brain activity continued its steady decline toward 0. 15 minutes, Dr. Yilmoth said quietly. I'm sorry, Lieutenant. Without a miracle, she won't survive much longer. Marcus looked around the medical bay, his mind racing. Somewhere in this room, in this station, in his own determination, there had to be an answer. Humans hadn't survived ice ages, plagues, and wars by accepting defeat. They'd survived by doing the impossible when everything seemed hopeless. Then, I guess, Marcus said, his voice carrying a quiet intensity that made every alien in the room take notice. It's time for a miracle. Marcus stood in the medical bay's research alcove, frantically accessing the station's xenobiology databases. His fingers flew over the holographic interface as he pulled up every piece of information about Kepler 442b's ecosystem. The alien medical team watched him with a mixture of curiosity and pity, clearly believing his efforts were futile. Lieutenant, Dr. Yilmoth approached cautiously. Perhaps you should spend these final minutes with Dr. Chun rather than— No, Marcus cut him off without looking away from the data streams. She's not dead yet, which means there's still time to save her. His voice carried an edge of desperation mixed with unwavering determination. Humans don't die quietly. We fight until the last breath. Dr. Feldoran's crystalline form chimed softly. Lieutenant Webb, emotional attachment can cloud judgment. The toxin's molecular structure is unlike anything we've encountered. Even our most advanced computers cannot devise a suitable antidote. Marcus paused his frantic searching and turned to face the assembled medical team. That's because you're thinking like galactic citizens. You're looking for technological solutions, pharmaceutical interventions, advanced medical procedures. He gestured toward the bioscanner, where Zara's life signs continued their steady decline. But humans survived on Earth for millions of years before we had any of that. Primitive medicine will not help her now, Nurse Kethvar interjected, his scaled features showing confusion. This is a sophisticated neurotoxin that requires equally sophisticated treatment. Maybe, Marcus said, returning to the database with renewed focus. Or maybe the solution is so simple that advanced civilizations have forgotten it exists. He began pulling up files on Earth's evolutionary history, medical practices from before humanity joined the Confederation, and detailed biological analyses of human adaptation mechanisms. Commander Jexhai clicked his mandibles in frustration. Lieutenant, I understand your desire to help, but you're not a medical professional. Dr. Yilmoth has decades of experience across multiple species. If he cannot find a solution, he can't find a solution because he doesn't understand how humans work. Marcus interrupted, his voice growing stronger. None of you do. You see us as just another member species, but we're different. We're the only species that evolved on a death world. The medical team exchanged glances. Earth was indeed classified as a Class 12 death world, but they'd assumed human descriptions of their home planet's dangers were exaggerated. Most spacefaring species evolved on peaceful garden worlds or pastoral moons where the greatest dangers were weather patterns or seasonal migrations. Marcus found what he was looking for, detailed analyses of human immune response and adaptation mechanisms. Look at this, he called out, projecting the data for everyone to see. Humans produce antibodies at rates that seem impossible to other species. Our immune systems don't just fight off infections, they adapt to them, learn from them, and create permanent defenses. We know about human immune responses, Dr. Yilmoth said patiently. But this isn't a bacterial infection or viral contamination. This is a neurotoxin that's shutting down her brain. Exactly, Marcus exclaimed, his eyes bright with sudden understanding. It's a neurotoxin, which means it's organic. It's a biological weapon created by a living creature for a specific purpose. And if it's biological, he trailed off, his fingers dancing over the controls as he accessed more human medical data. Lieutenant, Dr. Feldoran chimed urgently. Her neural activity just dropped to 15%. Whatever theory you're developing, we need action now. Marcus spun around to face them all, his expression intense. On Earth, humans developed immunity to countless toxins and venoms through controlled exposure. Small doses over time that trained our immune systems to recognize and neutralize threats. But we also developed something else, emergency adaptation. Emergency adaptation? Nurse Kethvar asked. When a human is dying from venom, their body doesn't just fight the toxin, it studies it. Every cell becomes a laboratory, analyzing the molecular structure, identifying weaknesses, developing countermeasures. The problem is, by the time the body figures it out, the person is usually dead. Dr. Yilmaz's trunk swayed thoughtfully. You're suggesting her body is already working on a solution? I'm suggesting something better, Marcus said, moving toward the bioscanner's control panel. I'm suggesting we give her body what it needs to work faster. He began inputting commands, calling up Zara's real-time biological readings. Her immune system is trying to adapt, but it needs more time than she has. So we give it time. How? Commander Jexhai demanded. Marcus took a deep breath, knowing his next words would sound insane to beings who'd never lived on a world where everything was trying to kill them. We make her immune system work 1,000 times faster by doing something every other species in the galaxy would consider barbaric. The warning alarms from the bioscanner grew more urgent. Zara's breathing was now so shallow it was almost undetectable. 10 minutes, Dr. Yilmaz announced grimly. Marcus looked at each of the aliens in turn, seeing doubt and fear in their expressions. They thought he was losing his mind, grasping at impossible solutions because he couldn't accept reality. They didn't understand that humans had built their entire civilization on refusing to accept reality when it wasn't good enough. Trust me, he said quietly. Humans have survived things that would destroy entire civilizations. We've turned our weaknesses into strengths and made the impossible routine. Zara isn't just going to die from a snake bite. Not on my watch. Not when I can do something about it. What are you planning, Lieutenant? Dr. Yilmaz asked, though his tone suggested he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Marcus smiled grimly as he prepared to do something that would either save Zara's life or shock every alien in the medical bay into understanding why humans were considered the most dangerous species in the galaxy. I'm going to give her more venom. The silence in the medical bay was deafening. Every alien present stared at Marcus as if he'd just proposed setting Zara on fire to cure her fever. Dr. Yilmaz's trunk trembled with shock, while Nurse Kethvar's scales shifted to a pale blue that indicated extreme distress among his species. Lieutenant Webb, Commander Jexhai said slowly, his 6 arms spread in a gesture of disbelief. Did you just suggest introducing more toxin into Dr. Chen's system? The very substance that's killing her. You cannot be serious, Dr. Feldoran chimed, his crystalline body resonating with alarm frequencies. That would be tantamount to murder. Marcus moved to the medical supply storage, his movements quick and purposeful. On Earth, we call it hair of the dog. When someone has alcohol poisoning, sometimes a small amount of alcohol can actually help stabilize their system while the body processes the toxins. But this is bigger than that. This is madness, Dr. Yilmaz protested, stepping between Marcus and the storage unit. I cannot allow you to harm a patient under my care. Look at her readings, Marcus said, pointing to the bioscanner display. Her immune system is already responding to the venom. See these elevated white blood cell counts? Her body is trying to develop antibodies, but it's losing the race against the toxin spread. We need to change the rules of the race. He pulled up a holographic display showing Zara's cellular activity at the molecular level. Human immune systems work differently than yours. When we're exposed to a threat, every cell becomes a potential defender. But the process takes time. Time she doesn't have. So you want to give her more poison, Nurse Kethvar said flatly, his voice carrying the tone one might use when addressing a mental patient. I want to give her immune system a clearer target, Marcus corrected, accessing the toxin analysis from her blood samples. Right now, her body is fighting the venom while trying to analyze it. It's like fighting an enemy in the dark. But if we introduce a controlled amount of the same toxin, you would overwhelm her already compromised system, Dr. Yilmaz interrupted. The additional toxin would kill her immediately. Marcus shook his head, his eyes bright with desperate inspiration. Not if we introduce it slowly, in microdoses, directly into her immune processing centers. Her lymph nodes, her bone marrow, her spleen. Give her body's defense systems direct access to study the enemy, while keeping the concentration too low to cause additional damage. The medical team exchanged worried glances. The human was describing a procedure that violated every principle of galactic medicine. No civilized species would even consider such a barbaric approach. Lieutenant, Commander Jexhai said carefully. Even if your theory has merit, We lack the knowledge of human physiology to perform such a procedure safely. We could kill her trying to save her. She's already dying, Marcus replied bluntly. 7 minutes, and counting. Traditional medicine has failed. Advanced alien technology has failed. The only thing left is human stubbornness and the refusal to accept defeat. He began pulling up medical schematics of human anatomy, highlighting the immune system's key nodes. Humans survived the Black Death by developing immunity to plague. We survived smallpox, tuberculosis, and 100 other diseases that should have wiped us out. Not through advanced medicine, but through adaptation. Through our bodies learning to fight back. Dr. Feldoran's harmonic tones shifted to confusion. But those were evolutionary processes that took generations. You're suggesting accelerating adaptation to occur in minutes. I'm suggesting something humans do naturally when we're desperate enough, Marcus said, preparing the toxin extraction equipment. We adapt or die. And when dying isn't acceptable, we find ways to adapt faster than should be possible. He began isolating minute quantities of the venom from Zara's blood samples, purifying it, and preparing it for controlled reintroduction. His hands moved with steady precision despite the alien's horrified stares. This is how humans conquered Earth, he continued, his voice growing more confident as he worked. Not by avoiding danger, but by making ourselves immune to it. Every poisonous plant, every venomous creature, every deadly pathogen. We found ways to survive them all. Sometimes through medicine, sometimes through technology, but most often through sheer biological determination. 6 minutes, Dr. Yilmoth announced, his voice hollow. Marcus finished preparing the microdoses and turned to face the medical team. I need access to her lymphatic system. Injection ports at her lymph nodes, particularly the ones near her brain and spinal cord. I cannot allow this, Dr. Yilmoth said firmly. As Chief Medical Officer, I have a responsibility to do no harm. What you're proposing could kill her. She's already being killed, Marcus shot back. By a toxin from a snake on a planet we thought was safe. By the assumption that advanced medicine can solve every problem. By the fact that nobody in this room understands how humans actually work when we're pushed to the edge. He gestured toward Zara's motionless form. She's not just my research partner. She's the bravest person I know, human or alien. She spent her life studying impossible things and finding ways to make them possible. She wouldn't want to die quietly on a medical table while everyone stood around discussing why she can't be saved. The bioscanner's alarms grew more urgent. Zara's heart rate was becoming erratic, and her brain activity had dropped to critical levels. For minutes, Nurse Kethvar announced. Marcus looked around the room at the assembled aliens, seeing fear, doubt, and resignation in their expressions. They were good beings, skilled medical professionals who genuinely wanted to help. But they didn't understand that humans were fundamentally different from every other species in the galaxy. Please, he said quietly, trust me to save her. Trust humans to do the impossible when everything else fails. Trust that sometimes the most dangerous path is the only one that leads to survival. Dr. Yilmoth stared at him for a long moment, then slowly stepped aside. May the stars forgive me, the Centaurian muttered. Do what you must. Marcus worked with the focused intensity of someone who knew that every second counted. His hands moved with surgical precision as he prepared the injection sites along Zara's lymphatic system, using the medical bay's advanced scanners to locate the optimal points for introducing the controlled toxin doses. Injection point 1, cervical lymph nodes, he announced, his voice steady despite the circumstances. Microdose of purified venom, concentration 0.001%. The needle slipped into position with practiced ease. Dr. Yilmoth monitored the bioscanner readings, his trunk swaying with nervous energy. Her cellular activity is changing. I'm seeing increased protein synthesis in her white blood cells. That's her immune system recognizing the threat and beginning analysis, Marcus explained, moving to the next injection site. Injection point 2, axillary lymph nodes. Same concentration. He administered the second dose with the same careful precision. Nurse Kethvar watched the molecular displays in fascination. Her lymphocytes are exhibiting behavior patterns I've never seen before. They're clustering around the introduced toxin samples like. He paused, searching for the right comparison. like scientists studying a problem. Dr. Feldorin chimed, his harmonic tones carrying a note of wonder. Her immune cells are literally learning from the venom. Marcus smiled grimly as he prepared the third injection. Human immune systems are curious. When we encounter something trying to kill us, we don't just fight it. We study it, understand it, and develop permanent defenses against it. He administered the dose near her spinal column. Injection point 3, lumbar lymph nodes. The bioscanner suddenly erupted in a cascade of alerts. Zara's brain activity spiked dramatically, her heart rate doubled, and her entire nervous system showed massive increases in electrical activity. She's going into shock, Dr. Yilmoth cried, reaching for the emergency stabilizers. Her system is overloading. No, Marcus said firmly, gently pushing the Centaurian's hands away from the controls. She's not going into shock. She's going into overdrive. This is what humans do when we're really fighting for our lives. On the molecular display, Zara's immune system was putting on a show that left the alien medical team speechless. Her white blood cells were rapidly mutating, creating new antibody configurations at a rate that should have been impossible. Her bone marrow was producing specialized cells that didn't exist in any medical database. How is this possible? Dr. Feldorin asked, his crystalline form pulsing with amazement. Cellular adaptation at this speed should be biologically impossible. Not for humans, Marcus replied, monitoring Zara's vitals with growing hope. We're the only species that evolved on a planet where everything was actively trying to kill us. Not just competing for resources or territory, but actually hunting us, poisoning us, infecting us. We developed immune systems that could adapt in real time because anything slower meant extinction. Commander Jexhai leaned closer to the displays, his 6 arms gesturing in disbelief. Her body is creating entirely new antibody structures, proteins that have never existed before in any known species. Because the venom has never existed before either, Marcus explained. That snake on Kepler, 442b, evolved its toxin over millions of years to be the perfect killer on that world. But humans didn't evolve on that world. We evolved on Earth, where we had to survive saber-toothed tigers, plague bacilli, cobra venom, spider toxins, and 1,000 other things that should have wiped us out. Zara's body temperature began rising as her immune system kicked into what humans called crisis mode. Her metabolism accelerated, her cellular reproduction increased, and her entire body became a biological weapons factory dedicated to neutralizing the alien toxin. 2 minutes, Dr. Yilmoth announced, though his voice now carried hope instead of despair. Marcus administered the final microdose directly into Zara's bloodstream near her heart. Last injection. Let's see if human determination is stronger than alien venom. The response was immediate and dramatic. Zara's eyes snapped open, pupils dilated and wild, her body convulsing as her nervous system rebooted itself. She gasped, drawing her first real breath in nearly an hour, and her brain activity exploded across the scanner displays. Zara, Marcus leaned over her, relief flooding his voice. Can you hear me? She tried to speak, but could only manage a strangled whisper. Her hand moved slightly, fingers twitching as nerve function returned to her extremities. The toxin levels are dropping rapidly, Nurse Kethvar reported in amazement. Her body is neutralizing the venom faster than our computers can track. Dr. Yilmoth stared at the readings in wonder. She's not just fighting off the poison. She's developing permanent immunity to it. Her body is creating antibodies that could protect her from this venom for the rest of her life. And probably protect other humans too, Marcus added, taking Zara's hand as she fought to regain consciousness. Human immune systems share information. If we can synthesize her new antibodies, we can create vaccines for future encounters. Zara's eyes focused on Marcus's face, and she managed a weak smile. Did you just give me more venom to cure the venom poisoning? She whispered. Something like that, he replied, grinning with relief and exhaustion. I thought you might appreciate the irony. Dr. Feldorin's harmonic chimes filled the medical bay with what could only be described as awe. In my 3 decades of medicine across 17 species, I have never witnessed anything like this. Humans don't just survive, you adapt. You evolve. You turn your vulnerabilities into strengths. Commander Jexhai clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. No wonder humans have been so successful since joining the Confederation. You don't just solve problems, you become immune to them. Zara squeezed Marcus's hand weakly, her strength returning by degrees. How long was I out? About an hour, Marcus replied. Long enough for me to terrify every alien on this station by doing something they thought was impossible. That's my favorite kind of impossible, she whispered, then closed her eyes as her body continued its miraculous recovery. The medical bay fell silent except for the steady beeping of the bioscanner, now showing strong and stable vital signs. The alien medical team stood in quiet amazement, realizing they had just witnessed something that would change their understanding of human biology forever. 3 days after the incident, Dr. Zara-chan sat in the station's observation lounge, watching the blue-green marble of Kepler 442b rotate slowly below them. Her recovery had been nothing short of miraculous by galactic medical standards, though she still felt the occasional tremor in her hands as her nervous system finished repairing itself. The Galactic Medical Council wants to interview you, Marcus said, settling into the chair beside her with 2 cups of Earth coffee, a luxury he'd managed to procure from the station's emergency supplies. They're calling it the most significant advancement in xenobiology since first contact. Zara accepted the coffee gratefully, inhaling the familiar aroma. What are they calling it officially? Accelerated human immunological adaptation, Marcus replied with a slight smirk. Though I heard Dr. Yilmoth referring to it as the human miracle when he thought nobody was listening. She laughed softly, wincing slightly as the movement pulled at her still tender injection sites. A miracle. That's what you called it in the medical bay, wasn't it? Right before you decided to inject me with more of the thing that was killing me. I prefer to think of it as aggressive therapeutic intervention, Marcus said, though his expression grew serious. For a few minutes there, I thought I'd lost you. I thought I was going to have to explain to your parents, to the research council, to everyone who cared about you, that you died from a snake bite on a planet we'd classified as safe. Zara studied his profile as he gazed out at the planet below. You saved my life by doing something everyone else thought was insane. That's very human of you. According to Commander Jexhai, that's exactly the problem, Marcus said with a wry smile. He's been getting reports from other Confederation medical facilities about human unpredictability in crisis situations. Apparently, we have a reputation now. What kind of reputation? Marcus turned to face her, his eyes bright with amusement. The kind where other species' medical teams specifically request human consultation for impossible cases. The kind where they're revising xenobiology textbooks to include chapters on human crisis adaptation. The kind where they're wondering if they should be grateful or terrified that humans joined the Confederation. Through the observation lounge's transparent aluminum windows, they could see shuttles preparing for another survey mission to the planet's surface. This time, the team would be equipped with proper anti-venom protocols and detailed biological scanning equipment designed to detect camouflage predators. Dr. Feldorin stopped by earlier, Zara said, sipping her coffee. He wanted to thank me for demonstrating the resilience of organic adaptation systems. I think he was trying to say thanks for not dying. The crystalline species don't handle mortality well, Marcus observed. Their bodies are essentially immortal unless physically destroyed. The idea that biological beings can fight off death through sheer determination is apparently a new concept for them. Zara nodded thoughtfully. Nurse Kethvar was even more fascinated. He kept asking about human evolutionary history, wanting to understand how we survived long enough to develop space travel. When I told him about the Black Death, the Ice Age, and the Permian extinction event, he looked at me like I was describing fantasy novels. Most species had gentle evolutionary paths, Marcus said, gradual adaptation to slowly changing environments. They don't understand the concept of evolutionary pressure so intense that only the most adaptable survive. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Commander Jexhai's image appeared in the lounge's holographic display, his mandibles clicking in what the humans had learned to recognize as his version of a smile. Dr. Chun, I'm pleased to see you looking well, the Vortan said. I wanted to inform you that the Confederation Science Council has officially classified your recovery as a Class 1 biological phenomenon. They're requesting permission to study your new antibody structures. Of course, Zara replied. Though I should mention that Lieutenant Webb deserves equal credit for the breakthrough. Without his understanding of human crisis physiology, I'd be dead. Indeed, Commander Jexhai agreed. Lieutenant Webb's actions have prompted the Medical Council to establish new protocols for human emergency treatment. They're calling it the Webb method, though I understand humans prefer the term controlled adversity therapy. Marcus nearly choked on his coffee. They named a medical procedure after me? The first human medical procedure in the Galactic database, the commander confirmed. You should be proud. You've given the entire Confederation a new understanding of human capabilities. After the commander signed off, Zara and Marcus sat in comfortable silence, watching the planet below. The snake that had nearly killed her was probably still hunting in those forests, unaware that it had triggered a medical revolution. You know what the really amazing part is? Zara said eventually. What's that? Every other species in the galaxy looks at humans and sees something dangerous, unpredictable, even frightening. They see the death world we came from, the wars we survived, the disasters we overcame. But you know what I see? Marcus raised an eyebrow. What do you see? Zara smiled, her hand finding his across the space between their chairs. I see a species that refuses to give up. I see people who look at impossible situations and ask, how do we fix this? Instead of how do we accept this? I see someone who was willing to risk everything to save someone they cared about, even when everyone else said it was hopeless. That's just human nature, Marcus said softly. Exactly, Zara replied. And that's what makes us special. Not our technology, not our weapons, not even our adaptability. It's our refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible. It's the fact that when someone we care about is dying, we don't calculate odds or follow protocols. We find a way. Below them, Kepler 442b continued its slow rotation, its forests and plains holding countless mysteries yet to be discovered. Some of those mysteries would be dangerous, some would be wonderful, and some would be both. But whatever they found down there, they would face it with human determination and the knowledge that sometimes the most dangerous path was the only one that led to survival. And in the medical bay, Dr. Yilmoth was already preparing new protocols for the next impossible case that would require a very human solution.